All right, so I'm about to talk about some things that I want to work on. First, I'm going to talk about just the fact that I have heart failure, you know what I mean? And it's been some years, but this thing with Ray J, you know, I was looking at that and I was seeing just how hopeless he feels, you know what I mean? And for me, I've had heart failure. I've been dealing with it for a while. The thing about heart failure is you can't compare one person's heart failure to another person's heart failure. So I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be like, oh, you know, you can live long with it. No. The reason why I was able to be alive for so long is just straight up luck, because I've actually died and all of that, you know, having your heart stop a few times. So, you know what I mean? It's just not something that you can be like, oh, you know, someone else pulls through it, you can pull through it too. It's just not like that. But for this very first Instagram video, what I want to talk about is different projects. And I got this song in my head. I just got to say it a little bit, because I keep thinking about it and I don't want to forget the lyrics. But I was thinking of a certain point. I was like, reach out through the pain and the sorrow. You still got tomorrow. A little bit. Like, it's just in my mind right now. And I'm trying to get out all these different ideas. So, you know, I'm just I'm just recording to make sure I got it. But there's a few celebrities, you know, I always wanted to work with them, right? And I had a good idea for some content. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out stuff. I've been trying to do this for years, but like my accounts get deleted because I don't have a phone, or they get deleted. You know, all these stupid reasons that are just, you know, people want to make as much money as possible. So if you don't do anything that can make money or whatever, you know, no one gives a shit about whether or not your content exists. So this is going to be something that I basically create each one of these videos talking about all this stuff. I'm going to save these files and make sure I have them so I can re-upload them all the time. And that's just what they're going to be. But we're going to talk about the first celebrity that I'm going to make this content on is Willow Smith, right? I had a couple really good story ideas, and Will Smith, I had a couple really good story ideas. Now, the first person I'm going to actually make content about is Willow Smith, because I had this idea for Avatar 2 a while ago, right? And I wrote out some of the idea, but the idea is essentially Willow and Jaden Smith. They're both in the Avatar universe. They're avatars. They were born after the events of Avatar, right? And then the Avatar planet is actually getting destroyed, like it's falling apart. It can't sustain its life, yada yada. So they figure out how to get to Earth. But the problem with going to Earth is that on Earth, you know how we are down here. You know how we do it. We're crazy. We war, enslaving people, all this different stuff. So it starts off, Jaden and Willow, they're these avatars that are different lineage, different evolution of the Avatar. And then they basically try to get to Earth and live there, but then the people turn them into like prisoners because they hear about all of the events and all of the things with the war and all of that happened in the other Avatar movies. But when they got back to Earth, people just said that the Avatar people betrayed them. So they treat them like people who betrayed them and were enemies from another planet. Basically the whole movie. Then the stuff that I wanted to do with Will Smith, these are all old ideas. This is from a long time ago, like middle school thoughts, right? It was like Hancock 2, right? I wanted to make something where Hancock, he has all this lineage, his species or whatever, all these people, they turn out to all be aliens. And eventually they get to a point where they're like gonna die on their planet again after the events of the movie. But it's from the events of the movie that the species could sense them, and they figured out like, oh, y'all were dying. This means that y'all were kind of useless. It took us like, let's say the movie takes them like, I don't know, 50 years to get to Earth. But it's also from the time before, from the movie and the events of that movie. I think that was like 100, 200 years or something in that movie. But the whole idea is that their species, or whatever the Hancock people were, comes to the planet and starts beating Hancock's ass. And it's just like, oh, you know, where are all of y'all at? Y'all didn't come to this planet just one person. Y'all didn't come to this planet just two people. And y'all were worthless. It was good to send y'all away. Trash, right? Like, that's the whole idea of the movie. And eventually, they get more power, and they teach them how they came to be. And then they try to spread all that power to the human race, right? And that could be even a third Hancock movie. Now, the next person is Miley Cyrus. I have to think of her name real quick. But with Miley Cyrus, I had this really cool idea where she's a dragon lady. She's like the last of these dragon people. And the story as to how that happened is that there were dragons, right? The dragons attacked people. And then people wanted to kill off all the dragons. But then the last couple dragons begged not to destroy their eggs. So someone took their eggs and did a magical spell on it so that those eggs could then turn into people. But they turned into dragon people. And some of the dragon eggs that were these dragon people, they got used as military soldiers. So they were technically still killing people, but now it was for people, right? Then they had one where they were like a king or something. And then there was another one. So it was like 4 or 5 eggs. And then another one, this one's the one that's Miley Cyrus. They took the egg and they tried to give her a normal life. But, you know, and she has dragon abilities, so she's stronger than everybody. She, you know, like, hey, you know, go farm the land. And then she can just drag one arm and pull up all these plants, you know, and people are like, wait, usually people have to pull them out, right? So she becomes like a top tier farmer or whatever, because she can also do things like heat up stuff, but she doesn't really learn how to use her dragon breath and all of that yet. But the whole idea of that is that eventually she gets taken into military stuff, and eventually it's like the reason is because the king was one of the dragon people, right? And then he's like, no, you're actually a dragon person, and he's just telling her all this stuff and trying to get her to come be his wife or whatever. And then she doesn't want to do that. She fights back. They end up having a war. You know, it's just stuff like that. But this idea is meant to be a video game and a movie. It's not meant to be just a movie idea. And then we're gonna get into just saying the names of the other people because there's not enough time to explain. Billie Eilish, Aurora, the singer. I have some game ideas and movie related stuff for them as well. And there was other people that are UFC fighters. One of them is a small guy, Mighty Mouse. The other one is Israel Adesanya. And then I have my own stories. And that's pretty much this whole video. That's everything that I'm going to be trying to work on with this Instagram account. Each one of these is going to be their own post. Each one of them is going to have their own story, blah, blah, blah.